about immigrant integration and support of services for the API community. So what is immigration? I actually got this definition from the USC Center for the Study of Immigrant Integration, and I really liked it because it's a comprehensive definition. Its immigrant integration is improved economic mobility for, enhanced civic participation by, and receiving society openness to immigrants. Integration requires an intentional process that incorporates the needs of immigrant populations into policies governing our cities and states. It is a dynamic, two-way process in which newcomers and the receiving society can both benefit as they work together to build secure, vibrant, and cohesive communities. So what it isn't is reluctance or resistance to welcome different communities and different cultures. So what are some components of integration? Language and education, and while we're going through this, if you can just start thinking about whether these components are lacking or established in the API community. Language and education, eliminating the language barriers and having access to, health care, and just the range of social services in your language. Finding employment, living wage jobs. Do you have access to job training? Do you have access to education in order for you to get a job? Are there jobs available that will allow you to provide for yourself and for your family? Is the API community, is the safety net, is it set up? Is there a safety net for the API community to receive the basic needs? Home, food, shelter, health care. Is there access to legal services and also legal services where they can go and ask questions to? And also, is there equal treatment and opportunity? Are they seen as equals in our community? Are they provided with the same respect and dignity that we obviously rage about in the United States, right? Are we upholding our values? And then civic participation, are there opportunities for them to get involved in local government, state government, federal government? What does that look like? Why is immigrant integration important? It increases civic participation, right? The more that you're taking into consideration the community's needs, the more likely they will get involved in government. It revitalizes declining communities. So again, it allows them to incorporate their backgrounds, their histories, into local communities, to inject in them, a notion of acceptance, of tolerance, right? Stronger communities. It breaks down these politics of difference, the politics of the other. And then economic recovery. The fact that they contribute to, they contribute to local economy, to state economy, national economy. We actually had a pretty amazing event in January to highlight immigrant contributions, and we saw that just in Silicon Valley, like the video highlighted, those contributions were vast. And so, because of the economic crisis now, we need to have these safety net programs available. Global competitiveness, multilingual and multicultural workforce, right? So that sets us up to be able to compete globally. And like I said, an America that stays true to fundamental values. We talk about dignity, we talk about equality, and we're talking about immigration reform. We're constantly talking about, uplifting our nation's values. That's a report we came up with as far as for our immigration reform principles. But are we doing that? When we look at the different communities that are marginalized, that are, segregated, like Wendy pointed out, there was a lot of information about, or alarming rates of poverty amongst the API community. It was something that I know as we were doing our research was surprising to us, because just like we talk about the API community having professionals who have money, being rich, being well educated, there's a big percentage of that community that is living in severe poverty, and that's a community that a lot of times we don't talk about. So President Barack Obama's immigrant integration program, in his 2010 budget, he allocated $10 million for this program nationwide. which is ridiculous. I mean, to implement the different programs and the different components that we just went over. Comprehensive Immigration Reform for American Security and Prosperity Act of 2009, which Jasmine spoke about, proposes to allocate 80 million, which is a lot more, still not enough, right? And then Congressman Hondas, Mike, thank you for being here. Strengthen Unite Communities through Civic Education and English Skills Act of 2009. This legislation proposes to incentivize teachers for English instruction, and I believe for employers to also provide programs so people can learn English. API community development at the federal level. So on October 14, 2009, President Barack Obama signed an executive order reestablishing the White House Initiative on Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. And it's a commission that will recommend policies, it will recommend socioeconomic, cultural, everything that has to do with the API community to improve their status right now and for API community development. At the state level, we have the Office of Immigrant Affairs that the governor proposed he was going to put together. That never happened. He's all talk. So Office of Immigrant Assistance through the Attorney General's office. And that is to give the immigrant community a recourse in case they have any problems or any issues with law enforcement. So that's actually really good to know, right? So it's not necessarily immigrant integration, but if the immigrant community has any issues or complaints, I've actually tried to call it. It's an operator. I actually didn't get a call back, but they're trying. At least it's something that's out there. There's a naturalization services program was eliminated last year. It was blue penciled by the governor, and I believe in a time period of like 2 years, this program helped naturalize, I think, over 65,000 people. And it was eliminated. It actually provided funding for community-based organizations to provide services for people to naturalize. In 1998, Proposition 227 ended bilingual education. And this is kind of like the different policies that have come up that have been detrimental and also helpful all at the same time, but definitely not enough for the integration of our immigrant communities. So like I said, it ended bilingual education through the state of California, and it substituted with English-only instruction models. It was also left to the local school districts to decide on funding for bilingual education. So because of all the budget cuts, right, education obviously is not a priority. We don't care about educating our children, or we wouldn't be cutting all these funds to education. So it's left up to the school districts to really look at what funding they do have available for bilingual education. And then AB 540 was passed in 2001, and that allowed undocumented students to pay in-state tuition. And I believe 44% of the students right now that are considered AB 540 are Asian. And then the state DREAM Act, which don't have good news for about would allow undocumented students to apply for financial aid. That hasn't happened. They pretty much have to fund their entire education. And once they're done, we don't have real prospects for employment.